Well, hey, Chase Oaks. My name is Evan, and I want to say welcome to everyone that is joining us to Lift Online. This is where we get to do life together online. So whether you're in your bedroom, your living room, or maybe you're watching with your small group right now, we want to say welcome. So let me do a quick shout out to all of our campuses from Richardson to Sloan Creek to Woodbridge to Legacy. We want to thank you guys for being here, and we have a ton of great things in store. So before we get into what's happening next, let me just say if you're new, we are so thankful that you're here. If you could just do us a quick favor, we want to get you plugged in. We want to give you a group to be a part of. We want to give you a ministry to get connected to. If you could just do us a favor and text NEW to 469-754-9800. We would love to plug you in, get you into a group where you can do life together, where you can be a part of Lift, and you can see some amazing things happen in our ministries right now. So before I get ready to pass it over to worship, I just want to say Katie Bailey is speaking tonight, and she is phenomenal. She's one of the first people that I got to know when I came to the DFW area. And guys, she is a speaker among speakers. So be ready, lean into what she has to say, because she is amazing. Before we get ready to go in, let me just say worship's going to be awesome. If you feel comfortable just turning your video off if you're in a small group while you're doing worship, that is absolutely fine. If you want to keep it on and just worship or just sing in your head, do whatever you feel comfortable, but just take this time to prepare yourself to worship with God. And hey, thanks for being here for Lift Online. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great night and a great week. See you later.
Hi guys, my name is Hannah Lee, and I am the Central Worship Resident here at Chase Oaks, and I am also a small group leader at Lift at Sloan Creek. Shout out to my 9th grade girls. Y'all are the best. Can't wait to see you in a little bit for small group. Tonight we're going to be doing a song called Surrounded, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. There's a line in the song that says, "This is how I fight my battles." And I really love that line because it's just a reminder for us that God is the one with the power to handle our problems, and the way that we fight our battles and our challenges and our anxieties in this world is by taking them to Him through prayer, through worship, and really just time spent with Him, which if you're watching right now, that's what you're doing. You're spending time in His Word to learn more about Him and in worship. So I just want to encourage you guys, as we sing this song, to stand up, to mute yourself on Zoom and sing out. Go to a place where you feel like you can really wage war with the Lord on these. And so I just encourage you guys to remember that He is the one who fights our battles as we sing this song.
There's a table you've prepared for me in the presence of my enemies. It's your body and your blood you shed for me. This is how I fight my battles. There's a table that you've prepared for me in the presence of my enemies. It's your body and your blood you shed for me. This is how I fight my battles. And I believe you've overcome, and I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how. This is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how. In the valley I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you, Lord. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Let's sing that out now. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. I am, Lord. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles. And this is how I fight my battles, Lord. And this is how I fight my battles.
Lord, this is how we fight our battles. Not through stressing out about them, God, but through laying them at your feet, Lord. I just pray for whatever we're clinging on to right now that we don't need to, God. Would you give us the strength to lay it at your feet, God? Lord, we need you. We love you and we thank you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
There are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
Hey, thank you, Evan, so much for that warm introduction. At least one of those things is true. Again, my name is Katie Bailey. I am the youth pastor at Chase Oaks Sloan Creek, and I am super excited to be hanging out with you today. I want to say welcome to all of our campuses. I'm really glad you're here. And if you are like my family, we've been trying to find some new routines in the midst of lockdown and COVID. And one of my favorite new routines is we've been doing a lot of movie nights at my house. And for the most part, they're great. Like, we get all of our favorite snacks, we pop some popcorn, we get like the big fluffy blankets, and me and my kids and my husband, we all cuddle in on the couch and we watch a movie, and it is awesome. It's awesome with one exception. You see, my oldest daughter, she's 6, and she's an extremely anxious child, to the point where if we try to watch a movie that she has not seen before, she typically doesn't enjoy that process. But the other night, if I had to watch Frozen 2 one more time, I was gonna lose my mind. And so we insisted that we watch a new movie. We chose The Emperor's New Groove, which, if you haven't seen it before, it's like super age appropriate. It's funny. An emperor gets turned into a llama. But we turn over to look at my oldest child, and she is losing her brain. Like, she's literally on her couch shaking. Her fingers are in her mouth. She's like crying silently. She's rocking a little bit. Like, she is terrified. And so we turn the movie off for a little bit, and my husband and I look at each other and we're just trying to figure out like what exactly it is that's bothering her, because it's not really a scary movie. And we finally got it out of her that the reason she was so terrified and so anxious is because she had never seen the movie before. She didn't know how it was gonna end, and that idea was really unsettling to her. And as much as I want to kind of get annoyed at her for that, because it was frustrating, I can relate. Like, honestly, this whole COVID shelter in place thing, one of the biggest anxieties for me is that I don't know how it's going to end. And that's hard for me to deal with. Like, this up until this point has felt like a really sick infomercial where every 20 seconds it's like, but wait, there's more. Cue the murder hornets. Like, what? I don't like hornets anyway, but murder hornets? Are you kidding me? I just don't know how it's going to end, and I don't like that. And I actually think that's why the story of Joseph is so relatable too, because we've all been in situations like Joseph found himself in. No, that's not true. Maybe you haven't been sold into slavery by your siblings, but we've all been in these bad situations that we didn't deserve. Like, we're not talking about an instance where like we did something wrong and now we're reaping the natural benefits from it or the natural consequences from it, or we're being disciplined. This is one of those situations where Joseph didn't do anything wrong. And in fact, he was trying to do the right thing, and things just kept getting worse and worse for him. So if you haven't been following along with us, I want to give you a quick recap of Joseph's life. It starts out like up here. It's awesome. Joseph is his dad's favorite son, and he wants everybody to know it. So he gets this awesome coat of many colors. His brothers hate his guts. They throw him in a pit trying to kill him, but then decide to instead sell him into slavery in Egypt. Guys, that's nuts. So he goes from being the favorite son, his life is cushy, his dad thinks he can do no wrong, his life is pretty easy, to being a slave in Egypt. But Joseph is a really hard worker. He's a really sharp guy. And above all else, God is with him. So God blesses everything that Joseph does. And within his role as a slave, he keeps getting promoted till he's like second in command in his master's house. His master gave him that much great attention. The bad news is he also caught the attention of his master's wife. She hits on him. He says no. Things get awkward. She accuses him of rape wrongfully. And so things go from bad to worse, because now not only is Joseph a slave in Egypt, but he's now a slave in Egypt in jail. And I don't know this because the Bible doesn't say this, but I have to imagine that all Joseph really wanted was to get out of jail so that he could get out of Egypt, so that he could go back home to his normal life where things were easy and his dad adored him and didn't think he could do any wrong. Maybe so that he could tell his dad what butt faces his brothers were. I don't know. But instead, he's in jail in Egypt as a slave. But again, God is with Joseph, and God blesses everything that Joseph does. So Joseph actually gets promoted as a slave in jail in Egypt. And so he's doing his rounds, his jail lead duties, and he comes across these two guys who he's prisoners with. One was the king's baker and one was the king's cupbearer. And they're both really upset. And so Joseph asks them in Genesis chapter 40, what's wrong? And they say, we've both had dreams, and we know they mean something, but no one's here to interpret them. And here's where Joseph enters the scene saying, all interpretations belong to God. Let me interpret your dreams for you. And he does. He tells the baker, like, hey man, so sorry, you're about to be beheaded. I don't know what he would say after that. I don't know how you'd close that thought. But then he turns to the cupbearer and he says, you are actually about to be restored to your position. You're going to be standing next to Pharaoh, the most powerful man in Egypt, every day as your job. And when you do, I need you to tell him about me so that I can get out of here. And again, I'm sure Joseph just wanted to go back home to be with his family. But for whatever reason, God said no. And as soon as that cupbearer left
and started his job again with Pharaoh, he completely forgot about Joseph. And I want to pause here for a moment, because if you're anything like me, I know that you've prayed prayers that it seems like God just isn't answering. Or maybe even worse, God is telling you no, and you don't know why, because what you're asking for is good. So I want to take a minute and I want to look at Romans chapter 8, verse 28. It says, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, those who have been called according to his purpose." And guys, this is hard sometimes, especially if you're in the middle of something that's hard that you didn't deserve. Like, God, I didn't have anything to do with my parents' marriage. I just get to watch it crumble. And it's painful. And I didn't deserve this. Or God, I'm not making decisions for my brothers and my sisters. I just get to live in the household of turmoil because they can't get their act together. Or how about this one? I said no, and they did it anyway. And I get to live the rest of my life bearing the weight of the consequences of their decision. God, what do you mean when you say that you work out everything for the good of those who love you? And actually, that verse in Romans, it continues to interpret itself. It's saying that our greatest good, the good that we are being worked towards, is to be molded into the image of Jesus Christ. Guys, Jesus suffered. You don't look like Jesus easily. It takes time, and oftentimes it takes hardships. And here's my point with this. Joseph was sitting in jail. It had been 2 years since he helped out that cupbearer who seemingly forgot about him. And I'm sure his questions to God were, why? Have you forgotten about me? I've tried to do everything that I can. I'm trying to honor you in every way that I can. But here's the point. God's plans for Joseph were bigger than Joseph's plans for Joseph. Had at any point in this story, Joseph, had he gotten his way, had he gotten to go back home to Israel, he and his entire family would have starved to death a number of years later, along with all of Egypt and countless other people. God's plan for Joseph was bigger than Joseph's plan for Joseph. And so here's what I want you to remember today. Here's our big point. Your pain can position you for a purpose. And I want to be really clear here, because we know that we serve a God that hates injustice, a God that hates sin. So I don't want you to think like when Joseph's brothers were about to push him into a ditch to sell him into slavery, that somehow like God was behind him like, do it, gonna make it work for me. Like, no, okay? God doesn't take any joy in injustice or sin, all right? That burns him up more than it burns us up. What I'm saying is that even in a world where people are free to make terrible choices, God has authority. And he can take terrible things that happen and he can turn them into something beautiful, because that's just the kind of God we serve. Listen, I know students who are 11, 12, 13, 14, who've suffered things that nobody deserves. They didn't do anything wrong, but terrible things have happened to them. And it makes me really upset. Like, oftentimes I've come to God and I'm like, God, why? They didn't do anything bad and you let that happen to them? No human should have to deal with that. And they're so young. But I've also seen those same students take that pain, take that hurt, and take that injustice, and they offer it to Jesus as a sacrifice. And he redeems it in a way that they come out of it and they say, you know what? I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen to other people. I'm going to fight for justice. They're going to serve people that I have no right talking to because what they've walked through. God has the ability to take pain and turn it into purpose. I'm going to close with this. So with my daughter, we're watching this movie. She's told us that she just can't handle not knowing how it ends. And I can't convince her that the movie's gonna be okay. And so finally, like, the movie's still off, And I take her head in my hands and I make her like look at me, give me complete eye contact. I'm like, okay, Morgan, you don't have to trust the movie. You don't have to believe that everything's going to turn out okay. Do you trust me? Look at your dad. Do you trust him? Can you trust that we would not have turned a movie on if we thought it was going to scar you for life? Can you trust that we are protecting you in this? And that whatever happens over there, this is going to be okay. And she was finally able to settle down, and I think she might have actually enjoyed the rest of the movie. And here's the point. I think also often that's what God does with us. We're caught up in uncertainty. We're in the middle of pain, and we don't know where it's going. And God has our head in his hands, and he wants our full attention. He just wants to say, do you trust me? Do you believe that I can turn your pain into purpose? That I can bring beauty from ashes, and that I can redeem this situation? I want you to give it to me. I want you to trust my character. So as you head off into small groups, I want you to be thinking of that question. Is there any way that the pain you are feeling now could be used for something beautiful and amazing that you haven't even thought of? And maybe, just maybe, that first step is giving it over to God and inviting him into your pain with you. We have a heavenly Father that loves us, that sees us, and has bigger plans for our lives than we do. Go ahead and pray with me. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for these students. I've been honored and humbled to see how they've dealt with uncertainty with so much grace and so much courage. Thank you for them. Thank you for the lives you're preparing them for. Thank you for the good things you're preparing them to do. Jesus, it's in your precious name we pray. Amen.